They obliterated them, absolutely obliterated them. And listen, the ownership of PSG, let's be quite frank, will not be caring two hoots about winning Ligue 1 again. But if they can punch a hole, if they can go the distance in this competition, then they're singing from the rooftops, because that's what they've been chasing for years. They've been spending money trying to get it, and that was 10 times anything we saw from a Laurent Blanc side.
Yep.
What Unai Emery put out there today, that midfield three, that front three, the legs, the enthusiasm, the desire and the quality, everything we normally talk about from Barcelona, and we saw it from PSG. If you'd have put the Barca strips on the PSG players, you wouldn't have known the difference.
That was a backside beatdown, a backside whooping by PSG on Barcelona. And we talked about, leading up to this game, that if PSG was going to have an opportunity to win and compete in this match, that they would have to have the willingness to pressure Barcelona higher up the field. And they did that from the very get-go.
Yeah.
The pressure, the intensity defensively. And then they competed against Barcelona in a manner in which Barcelona was almost surprised, like, wait a minute, you're not going to let us play out of the back? You don't think we're good enough to play out of the back? And they weren't good enough. Turnover after turnover after turnover, and PSG, deservedly so, were up early in the game and carried on that momentum throughout. 4-0, and it was every bit of 4-0.
To give Barcelona their rewards, if you can call it that, they did have a chance. Umtiti hit the post, but that is as good as it got from what is many describe, including me, as the best attacking team in world football. And as much as we talk about how poor Barcelona are, PSG did to Barca exactly what you expected the other way around. The third goal summed it up for me. Trapp takes a goal kick, the most ridiculous of goal kicks, plays it to a centre-half who stood right in between Messi and Suarez, and they play all the way through to the other side and end up scoring a goal. And now all of a sudden you're looking at Barca, and as critical as I have been of Barca's back four, who I maintain have been poor throughout, now you're looking at this Barca defensive team as a unit. How that goal kick gets that far out. How they then evade the initial pressure from the front three. There's nobody in the midfield who can press the ball or able to win it back. And as I mentioned, this is a back four for me that I've been lacking all season long. And now you start to question, well, where's this Barcelona get this right all of a sudden?
Across the lines, Barcelona look disorganized, they look old, they look average, they didn't look like they had a plan, and they are just thinking that, well, we're just going to give the ball to Messi and then he'll figure it out. We'll give the ball to Neymar and we'll figure it out. But defensively, there were no answers. Iniesta having to chase back and not having the legs to do that. Busquets not able to cover the ground. Somehow, Andre Gomes gets us starting this match. He's not able to keep up with the athleticism that Craig was talking about out of the midfield from PSG. This was an incredible, outstanding performance by PSG. From the Barcelona perspective, this was embarrassing.
I've never seen that many holes in a Barcelona midfield.
Yeah.
If you put a video together of analysis of this game, you could pick out a dozen in the first half alone of PSG breaking the play up and then hitting them right through the middle, right through the heart. Nobody in there. I mean, Verratti, Matuidi and Rabiot in there were absolutely superb, flanked by Draxler and Di Maria. The pace, and then the experience and the wealth and running of Cavani. I mean, it was quite amazing. Barca have got no legs in there anymore, and quite frankly, was that the worst game Messi's had for...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long. How many times did he give the ball away in the first half? Suarez as well. But I'm telling you what, Rakitic on the bench again. Andre Gomes is Barcelona's answer to Man United's Marouane Fellaini. He's never a Barcelona player in a million years. Now, he's not the only one to blame, but that's the kind of quality that they've turned to. And is any wonder why they're struggling?
Let's just take a look at the player rating, shall we, for Barcelona, which maybe doesn't quite tell the whole story. Richard Martin going through them. He's got Suarez 5, Andre Gomez 6, Ter Stegen 7. They're quite high.
Let me tell you something. Richard Martin, I wish that he had been my teacher in school. Are you kidding me? This is...
I don't remember Suarez touching the ball.
This is friendly as friendly can be. How anybody gets above a 2 out of Barcelona. When you're Barcelona and you lose 4-0 in Champions League, you don't deserve much more than a 2. That's it, period.
What would you give Gomez, Ali? Gomez has got a 4.
He doesn't get a 4. He's got to go lower than that. I mean, he'll register a 1 just for the sake of showing up, but that's it.
But you look at Iniesta. Iniesta's on 5.
No, I'm across the board. Out of that midfield, we just talked about how they looked old and disorganized and ordinary. They look like players that haven't been in this sort of environment. That in itself is surprising out of a Barcelona team. But Iniesta's turning the ball over. Messi turning the ball over. Andre Gomez turning the ball over. Busquets unable to cover the ground. What do you expect when you're playing against a team in PSG that has a lot of talent on the field? And then you get destroyed. This is not a surprise. Once you saw the way the game was going, it just seemed like PSG was playing at one level and Barcelona was never able to catch up.
I thought Messi was quite disgraceful in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly. I mean, we're all huge fans of Messi.
Yeah, but he kept dropping, trying to get the ball, didn't he?
No, he wasn't. And when they didn't have it, he didn't exactly work his tail off, did he?
Well, he actually lost the ball in one of the goals, and he didn't try. He didn't track back.
Now, when he's not working and you're not controlling the game, you're asking more of your midfield. Now, Busquets is not the oldest, but he's been around a while, and I can tell you, he's not manoeuvring around the pitch as he was 18 months ago. Iniesta can't manoeuvre around the pitch.
Iniesta didn't look fit, did he?
Oh, exactly. So when you're losing the ball and you've got a really high-tempo midfield like Unai Emery had today, then you need everybody to be on the hymn sheet. That looked to me as if a couple of those players have had it with Enrique. That's what it looked to me.
You think so?
Yeah, that was the type of performance that said, you know what, I don't care.
As opposed to PSG, because there's been so much talk about Unai Emery and maybe him not clicking with the dressing room. That was far from evident tonight. They were absolutely superb. As everyone has said, everywhere.
Yeah, and for all the criticism we've had of Barcelona, you could turn that on his head totally to describe PSG. How many times have we sat here and criticized Angel Di Maria as a player who's not done it on the biggest, not done it on the biggest of stages, certainly not any kind of consistency, yet shows up and puts in that kind of a performance. I mean, and you could go from player to player. Julian Draxler, newly arrived in Paris, had his issues. As talented a footballer as he was, had his issues, and many question his attitude within dressing rooms, turns in that kind of performance. Two centre-halves, that young, inexperienced.
No Thiago Silva as well, remember.
And you talk about how do they fare against that front three. That was a huge concern going into this game. And as I mentioned, Barcelona, one chance. Umtiti from a set piece. That is all we have to talk about. Now these two centre-backs come out from that looking like world beaters in actual fact. And you go from player to player, from department to department for PSG, and you can't help but sing their praises and wonder, how is this team not running away with the league?
Before about Enrique, I personally don't think he's in the top 10 of great coaches. I don't. He managed the situation well in 2015 when they hit a rocky patch. He managed as a man manager that little patch well where Messi and a few of them were a few little grumbles. But he's had a great team there. He's had a great team. And that's the difference between being a great coach. And I think now that the players are starting to struggle, then we're seeing him in his true light, I think.
Is it fair to say that this could be an end of an era for Barca?
It could be the beginning of the end for Luis Enrique.
Sure.
This in itself, in this sort of stage, and this whooping that he took today, this is one of those that if you're on the board, if you are in the front office of this team, you say, wait a minute, this is not who we are, and we make changes when things are not the way we want it. As for Barcelona, the end of an era in terms of guys like Andres Iniesta. He cannot do it anymore. Yeah. Not at the highest level, not in the best way that we've seen it in the past, not with the sort of ability Busquets you talked about. They look old. Yeah. Barcelona look old and unathletic today, and they could not keep up with the pace of a younger, hungrier team.
Off the back of that performance and probably them going out, it's only a matter of time before it's Messi to City and Neymar to United, because, you know, that'll be the thing. Well, Messi doesn't look happy anymore, and he'll want to join his old manager Pep. So all these things are going to come around for Barcelona. I think it's going to be, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think it is going to be a problem for them.
Look, I think without question, Barcelona still have the foundations of a very good team. So end of an era is a strong statement. They need some freshening, as Ali points out. And more to the point,
Mascherano,
well, you know what I think about them at the back. But I've never been have been very critical of Barcelona at the back. But more to the point, what does this team do well, or how have they gone so far away from their own identity? Where years gone by, you talk about Barcelona simply stifling the opposition. You could barely get 20 yards out away from your own goal without there being 3 or 4 players in your face and them winning the ball back. Now all of a sudden, you see people quite happy to take goal kicks under pressure and put people under pressure because they know this team can't press you as they did. And that identity that made Barca great, along with the personalities, is just no more.
Yeah, it's a huge blow, you're right. He didn't play on Friday evening away at Bordeaux. He was in the stands and he looked a bit weird for people, but the club said, oh, it's just to be rested. You know, he had a few niggles, but nothing to worry about. And today the big news obviously was announced that he would miss the game tomorrow, which means that the pair of centre-halves for PSG against Barcelona and the MSN tomorrow will be Prenel Kimpembe and Marquinhos, surely the youngest pair at this stage still in the competition. And Kimpembe, the talent is not in doubt. He's already been called up by Didier Deschamps for France, for example. The problem is the experience. He's never been at that level. He's never played in that kind of environment against those kind of players. So, it'd be a huge task for him and for Marquinhos against Luis Suarez, Messi and Neymar, obviously. But that's where maybe you miss David Luiz, or at least you missed a replacement of the caliber of David Luiz, which, when they let him go to Chelsea, was never replaced.
2013, 2015, Barca not PSG out. Any chance that Unai Emery's side can make it third time lucky?
You're right. Carlo Ancelotti and Ibra failed to do that in 2013. Laurent Blanc and Ibra failed to do that in 2015. Will Unai Emery and Cavani finally managed to do it? It's a huge question. Emery has a terrible record against Barcelona through his career as a manager with Almeria, with Valencia, with Spartak and with Sevilla. He won one game in 23 against Barcelona for 6 draws and 16 defeats. And in those 23 games, Messi only played 21 times. He scored 25 goals. Emery never found a way to stop Messi. And that only win was against the Barcelona team without Lionel Messi, and that was just over a year ago with Sevilla. So huge task. I do believe, though, that Emery brought a lot of discipline tactically to this PSG team, which was not the case under Blanc and under Ancelotti. And the football, they still have it. The talent, they have it. They can pass it. They can keep hold of the ball even against Barcelona. But the tactical discipline sometimes has been missing in those games. And I do believe they have that. Will it be enough? I'm not sure. But they need Cavani at the top of his game, because remember when Ibra was there, Ibra always failed to turn out in those games, and they will need Cavani to try to carry this team through.
If Barca pump PSG, which many expect them to do over the 2 legs, is Emery gone?
He's not gone. It'd be a huge disappointment, but it won't be. They won't sack him now. Whatever happens against Barcelona, it's a huge. They know already that they could have had an easier draw, maybe a harder draw as well, because maybe this Barca team is not as strong as it was in the last 2 times they beat PSG. But it'll be a huge disappointment, and in a way a bit of a setback as well, because Emery was hired to do better in Europe, even if his stuff was the Europa League, never the Champions League. But still, they thought it would be good after Laurent Blanc to go through that next step, especially in Europe. And if he misses out and if he loses against Barca, then he would have failed in that task. But there will still be the league and the French Cup and the League Cup and all of that to make the season okay. But they would have failed in Europe, which is the thing that they're really missing.